Shericka Jackson just walked into Shanghai, looked at one of the fastest women's 200-meter fields assembled this year, and ran 22.07 seconds. Sha'Carri Richardson finished fourth. The final order read: Jackson first in 22.7, Shaunae Miller Uibo second in 22.26, Anavia Battle third in 22.40, Richardson fourth in 22.42, and just like that, with the very first Diamond League of the 2026 outdoor season, the women's 200 meters conversation has been completely flipped on its head. This was not supposed to go this quietly for Richardson. She came into Shanghai with serious momentum. Just months before this race, she became only the third woman in the 144-year history of Australia's iconic Stawell gift to win from scratch, clocking 15 seconds and overcoming a massive distance gap in the process. She had been building, she had been vocal, and she had told anyone who would listen that 2026 was going to be legendary. But on the track in Shanghai, inside the China Textile City Sports Center, it was Shericka Jackson who wrote the first chapter. So let us talk about what actually happened here, why it matters so much, and what is coming next for both of these women later this season. First, you need to understand who Shericka Jackson actually is. Because if you only follow track through social media headlines, you might think of her as a name in the background. She is absolutely not that. Jackson holds a personal best of 21.41 seconds in the 200 meters. That time makes her the second fastest woman over that distance in the entire history of the event. The only woman who has ever run faster is Florence Griffith Joyner, whose 21:34 from the 1988 Seoul Olympics still stands as the world record decades later. Jackson has also run 5 of the 10 fastest 200-meter times ever recorded by any woman. Think about that for a moment. 5 of the 10 fastest times in history, from one woman. That is not a coincidence or a fluke. That is dominance at the 2023 World Athletics Championships in Budapest. Jackson retained her women's 200-meter title in style, running 21.41 seconds, the second fastest time ever recorded. She also won silver medals in the 100 meters and the 4x100 relay that year, finishing a championship that left no doubt about where she stood in the sport: 2 consecutive World 200 meters titles. A personal best that sits just a fraction away from one of the most legendary records in all of athletics. A woman who, heading into Paris 2024, was widely seen as the clear favorite to win Olympic gold over the half lap, and then everything fell apart. At the Hungarian Athletics Grand Prix in July 2024, Jackson pulled up during her race, grabbing her hamstring. What initially seemed like a minor issue became a major problem that locked her out of the Paris 2024 Olympics entirely. The woman who was the fastest over 200 meters on the planet was forced to watch the Paris sprinting finals from home. Pulse Sports Kenya speaking about that period, Jackson described it as really hard, both mentally and physically. She credited her family, friends, and coaches as the people who kept her grounded during those difficult months. Going home, she said, was the best thing she could do for herself. That is the kind of setback that breaks careers, the kind that makes athletes question everything. But Jackson is not built like that. She came back, carefully, patiently. Her return came at the Queens and Grace Jackson Development Meet in Kingston in January 2025, her first race since pulling up injured in Hungary 6 months earlier. She did not rush. She did not force it. She took her time, raced selectively through 2025, and used every competition as a step back toward where she belongs. Olympics and now, at the first Diamond League of 2026, she ran 22.07 seconds in her first 200 meters race of the entire season, off a long flight to China, against a field that included a 2-time Olympic 400 meters champion, the reigning world 100 meters champion, and one of Europe's fastest rising sprinters. After the race in Shanghai, Jackson said it herself: "It sets me up well for the rest of the season. It is a good feeling. It was my fastest opener since 2022 or 2023, so to be able to run this quickly in 2026, I am happy." Shanghai, that quote is important. Her fastest season opener since 2022 or 2023. Those were the years she was running 5 of the 10 fastest times in history. Those were the years she was winning back-to-back world titles. If this is where she is starting, What does the rest of her season look like? Now let us talk about Sha'Carri Richardson, because this result is a setback, but it is nowhere close to the end of her story. Richardson came into Shanghai as the reigning world 100-meter champion with a personal best of 21.92 over 200 meters, one of the most explosive starters in the sport, and someone carrying enormous expectations from herself and everyone watching. Is one of the most watchable athletes on the planet right now. The speed, the personality, the ability to produce stunning performances when the moment is biggest. At the 2023 World Championships in Budapest, Richardson stood on the world 100-meter podium in first place and also secured bronze in the 200 meters at those same championships. She knows how to compete when it counts. Athletics Weekly but Shanghai was not her day. Jackson was imperious from the curve into the home straight, never looking back. She led into the final straight and controlled the race all the way to the line. Richardson, meanwhile, found herself in fourth behind Jackson, Miller Uibo, and Battle, a result that nobody had circled as likely coming into the race. Athletics Weekly, the gap between first and fourth was 0.35 seconds. In sprinting, that is not a disaster. That is one race on one afternoon against one of the most dangerous 200 meters runners who has ever lived. But in a season where Richardson had promised legendary performances, fourth place in a Diamond League opener lands differently. What makes this entire situation so compelling is where we are heading later in the year. The World Athletics Ultimate Championship will assemble world champions, Olympic champions, Diamond League winners, and the year's best performing athletes for a clash of titans across September 11 to 13, 2026, at the National Athletics Center in Budapest, the same city where Jackson won her second consecutive world 200-meter title in 21.41 seconds, the same venue where Richardson stood on top of the 100 meters podium. World Athletics, the women's 200-meter final, is scheduled for Sunday, September 13th, the final night of the championship. That is the last big race of the entire track season, the one that closes the book on 2026. And with Jackson and Richardson both being automatic qualifiers through their World Championship and Olympic credentials, that final is almost certainly going to feature both of them. World Athletics, the prize pool for the Ultimate Championship, is a record-setting $10 million across the entire event, with the winner of each individual event walking away with $150,000. World Athletics $150,000. For a single race, the biggest prize money in the history of track and field.